welcome to Vlogmas week number 2. So I was actually just sitting down to edit this week's Vlogmas, and I realized that my introduction that I had filmed or thought I had filmed was not there. So I'm not quite sure what happened. So if this little section seems a little bit different looking than what you're going to see right after this, that is why. So just be forewarned that I'm doing this a few hours later, so my hair may not look the same, my exact angle may not be the same, but I didn't want to miss out on talking about this first section, which is how my reading's been going this week, and starting out with the best read that I've had really probably all year, which is my reread of the Fitz-Osborne Montmoret Journals trilogy by Michelle Cooper. So this week I finished up this final volume, The Fitz-Osbornes at War, and of course I buddy read that with Jen from Jen's Reading Life and our friend Elizabeth, and we all just loved it. So it was my second time reading it in there first, and it is just a wonderful series. So can't recommend it highly enough if you like coming of age stories, if you like family sagas, if you like things set during World War II. This is really just a great series to read. So please, don't be dissuaded by the covers. The three of us talked about how the covers of this series are kind of lousy. They just took whatever stock footage, I guess, and slapped some ugly font on there, and I just don't understand why, because these books are excellent. This particular volume, actually, for some reason, they used an old picture of the actress Loretta Young, who was famous, like in the 30s and 40s. So it's just random. The covers are so random. They deserve better. But anyway, don't judge a book by its cover. I highly recommend you pick up these books. They're really some of the best books that I've read for sure this year, and really in general, they are on my list of favorites. This week I also read A Holiday by Gaslight by Mimi Matthews. This was my second time reading it, and it's such a quick read. I finished it in one day, and it's really enjoyable. I liked it quite a bit, just like I did the first time I read it. I think that she does a great job of fleshing out the romance in a pretty brief number of pages. I do always, though, struggle with novellas when it comes to romance, because I always want more. I feel like to really build up that depth of relationship, you tend to need more pages. But I think given the constraints, Mimi Matthews did a great job. The characters are really interesting. Their romance is believable to me, and the side characters are also pretty well drawn out. So yeah, it's a really nice atmospheric Victorian era romance. If that's something that you're interested in, I highly recommend this one. So this past Friday was sort of an exciting day for me. I had been interviewed by Meg from the podcast Meg's Reading Room, and we talked a lot about my reading life, my history with reading, sort of the struggles I've had with reading this year, as well as just some other interests I have, like cooking and things. And it was such a nice conversation, and that podcast episode came out on Friday. So I hope you'll go listen to it. Meg is such a wonderful person, such a great host for her podcast. She has such interesting guests, people from like the BookTube and Bookstagram community, as well as authors. And she's such a perceptive and kind, lovely person. She has the most beautiful voice for a podcast too. So it's really a pleasure to listen to her. So we had a great conversation, and I hope you'll go check it out. So one of the things that we talked about was books set in Paris, or things to do with French cooking and so forth. And in that discussion, Meg asked me if I had read the book Perestroika in Paris by Jane Smiley, which I hadn't. So she recommended that one for me, and I picked it up this week. So this wasn't on my TBR, but once I re-listened or listened to our podcast conversation, it reminded me of her recommendation. So I went and grabbed a copy, and I started it yesterday. So I've already made it about 75 or so pages in, and I'm enjoying it. So this is a story it's told from the point of view of some animals in Paris. So the main character is a racehorse named Perestroika, or Paris, and she escapes from the race course at Longchamp and meets up with a dog who's like living on the streets, whose owner has passed away. She meets up with some husband and wife ducks, and a raven. And anyway, at this point in the story, there are also a few humans involved that you're getting to know a little bit as well. So I'm very curious to see how this story all pans out. To be honest, it got off to a little bit of a slow start for me, but I'm really enjoying it now. And in addition to reading the paper copy, I've also borrowed the audiobook version from my library. So I think I'll probably listen to it some as well, maybe during my commute time from work this week. I think that will be a fun one to listen to as well as read in paper form. And then last night I picked up Marion's Christmas Wish and started reading that one. I haven't gotten very far, so we'll see if I stick with it. I'm not sure I'm in the mood for it after all right now, but I'm going to give it a try and see. If not, I'll see what other historical romance I might want to read that's sort of set at the holidays. There's another historical romance set at Christmas that I really love. It's called A Christmas Gone Perfectly Wrong by Cecilia Grant. It's only available on ebook, but I think it's usually like 99 cents or even sometimes free on Amazon. And it's probably my favorite Christmas novella. It is a spicy one, so beware of that, but it's also very sweet, and it's the beginning of her series of books. There's like 3 books about this particular family. And I just love Cecilia Grant's writing. She's one of the best historical romance writers. And unfortunately, she's only written or published the 1 novella and then 3 full-length novels. So yeah, it always bums me out that she hasn't written more. And that was quite a few years ago that she wrote those. But at least we have those, and I really enjoy them. So if you're into historical romance and you don't mind some open door scenes, then I'd highly recommend A Christmas Gone Perfectly Wrong by Cecilia Grant. Anyway, so that's my day today. I need to make that soup and get that going in the slow cooker. I have a few items I need to return to the UPS store. I think they're open today. I'm taping this on Sunday. And I need to do my Christmas cards so I can get them mailed out tomorrow because time is running out. Isn't that crazy? I mean, well, it's like 2.5 weeks or something till Christmas. So December always goes by way too quickly. But anyway, so I'm looking forward to today, and of course doing some reading as well. And I will see you again in a little bit. the soup turned out really pretty well considering how low effort it was. I'll include the link to the recipe I used down below in case you want to try it, but just a couple things I tweaked from the recipe. I hardly ever follow a recipe, especially one I found online as is. I always change something. So for this one, the recipe didn't call for ham, but I had like 12 ounces of diced ham in the fridge, so I went ahead and added that in. The recipe called for 2 cans of white beans. I used 3 just because I like a little bit more beans in my soups. And I use cannellini beans, but you know, you could use Great Northerns or Navy, whatever kind of white bean you like. And instead of just using regular chicken broth, I used chicken bone broth just to add a little extra protein in. And then I had a Parmesan rind in the freezer, so I just threw that in as well. Otherwise, I pretty much followed the recipe. But yeah, it's pretty good, and I recommend it if you're looking for an easy, pretty fast soup. I put it in the slow cooker, but you really could just cook it on the stove and it would take less time. So anyway, I'm gonna have my little soup and keep reading. And thanks for joining in for this week's Vlogmas, and I'll see you next time. Bye.